Good morning, Nashville. Happy Saturday. 4's Company here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I'm Jake Lyman, joined in studio by Nick Keyser once again. Nick Frazier is in parts unknown on his way back to Tennessee after a little vacation. We've got him over Zoom. Connor Newt, the greatest producer in all the land, is behind the glass. Gentlemen, how are we on this Saturday morning? Nick Keyser, nice job on the Preds draft show last night.
Yeah, fun times. Fun times as well with Max Hers, Willie Donnet, Chris Mason, and what a fun atmosphere last night. That was a lot of fun for the fans to be out there once again for some sort of Preds event. They were all going into the first round riled up, and then when that pick came up on the clock, man, the atmosphere was a lot of fun to be a part of, and the Preds are on the clock later this morning, probably around 11, so...
It looked a lot of fun over there, and you could hear it too. The boos when Chicago came on the clock
hysterical.
Was hilarious.
And
every single time that Chicago stepped to the podium, that whole room was filled with boos. Nick Frazier, hope you enjoyed your vacation. How are you this morning?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm doing well. On my way back en route to Nashville. People that go to the beach sometimes, I have a saying, some people get kissed by the sun. Others get slapped in the face. Let's just say the sun gave me a good little kiss on the wonderful skin here. So I'm looking nice and tan. But overall, I try to keep up with as much sports as possible. The internet connection at this place I was staying at was very spotty. So I got a few texts here and there from you guys. Was following the draft a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm hesitant about the pick, but there are a few question marks surrounding it. But last week we kind of made picks on the College Baseball World Series. Tennessee gets it done. Jake, you were spot on with that. Also the St. Louis Cardinals are 3 games above 500. I was talking to Newt about that before the show. So a lot of great things happening right now in the sports world, even though there's not much with, live sports, but there's a lot of big sports news going on right now.
Nick Frazier, as much as I'd like to take credit for being right on that, I picked the first 2 games right. I had A&M, then Tennessee, but I had A&M taking game 3. So I was close, but the Vols get it done.
That's all right.
You're right there. Yeah, I totally forgot. I mean, I remember you said game 1 was A&M. I was like, wait, did he have the whole thing?
I got the first 2 games right. I did not get the
Joe Rexford had the whole thing.
Decisive one. Yes, he did.
He did.
2 through some.
Montreal go through those injuries and not be able to finish his activities. Overarchingly, Shea Weber, I think, is one of the best captains the franchise has ever seen. I think his organization as one of the, in a dark place after he started getting hurt. And then now one thing I found interesting was that he's going to help out Utah now if there is a room because he's under contract with Utah. So he's going to go help them out. But my headline is Shea Weber going to the Hockey Hall of Fame. Having a hard time telling his dad, too, earlier this week. I shared that soundbite on Twitter. So he had a hard time. He broke down telling his dad. His dad's a stoic guy is what he said. He's like, why are you crying? But anyway, that I think is the biggest thing the Preds fans could have going into the draft-wise for news.
Yeah, Shea Weber and David Poile.
That's right.
Both are going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Really cool stuff. 2 pillars of Preds hockey. Connor Newt, any headlines for you this morning?
Yeah, I got a weird one. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I'm going to go over to women's U.S. national soccer.
Why is that?
Alex Morgan is being left off the team this year.
Whoa. Really?
Yeah. It was. I think it's because there's new ownership and leadership and coaching going into this new women's national team. Alex Morgan is 35, so that age definitely plays a factor in that one. But I think they're all cleaning house, and it's kind of a new era. But this is significant because, Alex Morgan has been kind of the face of her, and Megan Rapinoe have been kind of the face of this U.S. women's soccer for the last 10, 15 years, I would say. It's been a long time. But it doesn't sound like it was on her terms either. It sounded like they kind of just, we're not going to run with you this year. And she's been kind of vocal about not being involved and how, she just wants to play. But it's change. It's sports. This is how things work. You get older, the young guns step up and kind of take your place. It's just how it works, unfortunately. But that is kind of significant to the Olympics, and for our country being represented by these women in the game of soccer, or football as the rest of the world calls it. But yeah, that's my headline for the day.
That's
Alex
interesting.
Morgan.
Yeah, and then I just found this. I would like to read a little bit of it. So Coach Hayes told reporters that, they've got a roster that needs to adapt, and they've also got a team that needs to turn it around between games. Of course, having players on the roster that could play more than one position mattered with squad depth. So sounds to me like they would like some variety to their roster now, especially being a 35-year-old.
Yeah,
so
that is funny because off the air last week I was talking with TD. We were talking about Caitlin Clark. Minority were saying Diana Taurasi should be left off the team because she's in her 40s and
really
maybe past her prime. And TD,
we got a lot of things people said, no way this will happen.
Yeah.
And it did.
We'll get to that later on as well. Nick Frazier, I know you've had some internet stuff. Are you back with us, and do you have a headline?
I am. Yes, sir, I do. I was kind of my headline for the week is talking about Stamkos. You guys kind of briefly mentioned it a little bit. Going to explore free agency, and like you kind of just alluded to, a lot of people said, yeah, he might probably just re-sign with Tampa Bay, and look who's laughing now, gentlemen. Us. We are laughing. We kind of saw this coming. Just say,
yeah, I think we might have been one of the first people in Nashville to bring up Steven Stamkos. I know Nick Kieser brought him up, and we talked with Eric Erlenson down in Tampa Bay about this possibly being something that the Preds could do, and we'll get to that coming up later. We'll tease that with our free agency talk coming up later this hour. My headline, we're not going to talk any Titans today for the most part. Mostly a Preds show. Not a ton to talk about Titans-wise, but I do want to mention the Cabo trip. Will Levis taking Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Josh Wiley, Chigakonkwo, and Tajay Spears. I believe those are the 5 down to Cabo. We've seen some videos of them working. No Traylon Burks, and I've seen people questioning about that. I believe it's because his wife is...
Yeah, she's pregnant.
She's expecting any day now. So that I don't think Traylon Burks was just snubbed off this trip. I think there was actually a reason for it. I'm sure there was a reason Tony Pollard wasn't included as well.
Sure.
But those 5 guys down there with Will Levis, really cool to see. Second-year quarterback taking the initiative to bring his skill guys down there, get some extra work in. And I'm sure it's less about the work than it is about the team bonding. Like I've seen videos of them out on a boat together and playing golf. I'm sure that stuff and just having dinner every night, I'm sure that builds the camaraderie and the chemistry even more than what they're doing out there on the field.
Yeah, I think that's a fun one. And we'll get more into, who's training and who's not when they're all together, obviously later on. But that's interesting for sure. But our question of the day this morning is a fun one. This is one I was kind of looking forward to, but I think it's a good one to kind of ponder if you are a sports fan, excuse me. But let's go ahead and ask it. So, favorite player that you want in the Hall of Fame this morning, 615-737-1025. I obviously talked about Shea Weber. I think one player that I mentioned on Robbie and Rex Road, and his son just won the Stanley Cup. One player I'd like to see hockey-wise make it is Keith Tkachuk. And he was part of those early teams with the Winnipeg Jets that moved over to become the Coyotes. Rest in peace, by the way, because we don't know when they're coming back. But
if they're coming back.
If they are too. But Keith also played, down the line a lot with the St. Louis Blues, tormented the Nashville Predators, was a revered leader in the league at the time when he was playing. And so I think he's another guy that was remembered as a point scorer and a leader and gritty. And quite frankly, if Jeremy Roenick makes it, Keith has to make it too. That's the way that I look at it.
Yeah, let us know if you have a player, and we're going any sport here, right?
Any sport,
any sport, any favorite player that you want in the Hall of Fame. I don't think the question is you feel like deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I think we'll give some leeway here. It's a gray area. They don't have to have all their credentials, but somebody that you, in your mind, thinks deserve it, one of your favorite players, 615-737-1025. You can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We are off and running on this Saturday morning, 4's Company. When we come back, we're going to recap last night's first round of the NHL draft. The Preds going for a young Russian center, Igor Surin, coming over to Nashville. As he mentioned last night, he has a couple more years in Russia, but he will certainly be a project for the Preds that they're hoping will turn into a star player in the future. We'll talk about that coming up next. 4's Company here on this Saturday morning, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune into 102.5 The Game this Sunday for coverage of the Ally 400 race at the Nashville Super Speedway. Coverage presented by Green Trees will begin at 1:30. The race begins at 2:30 p.m. Green Trees Company is a family-owned cannabis company and dispensary located in Hendersonville and a new location in West Nashville and available online at greentreescompany.com. 4's Company here on this Saturday morning. Jake Lyman, Nick Kieser in studio. Nick Frazier with us remotely via Zoom. Connor Newt at the controls. Talking some Preds here this morning. Going to be a mostly Preds show, which makes sense. Draft going on last night and today. UC Saros gets a new extension, and free agency due up in about 48 hours. So excited for that. But let's start with the draft here. Last night, the Preds picked 22nd overall. There were some rumors that maybe Nashville wanted to move into the top 5. Would Yaroslav Askarov be part of a deal to do that? Nothing ended up happening. Kind of a slow night trade-wise in the NHL draft. I think there were only 3.
Lots of picks were being moved. Like Philadelphia and Minnesota
Philly moved back
swapped
twice.
spots.
Yeah, Philly moved back from 12 to 13 and then moved out of the first round at 32. Yep. And then I think maybe Anaheim traded
Anaheim moved
up
around
or
too.
something like that. Whatever it was, the Preds ended up staying pat at 22, and they took Igor Surin, a young center out of Russia, a guy that has a lot of potential.
I would
Pretty
say
young.
so. Yeah.
Probably not going to see him even in Milwaukee for a couple of years.
At least 2 years.
Yes, he said last night, it was funny, they said that his English wasn't great, which makes sense. He's only 17, I believe.
He is 17. His birthday's August 1st.
Okay, so turns 18 in about a month. But he was asked what his play style was, and he says, I have 2 more years on my contract in Russia, and then I come to U.S. and play in NHL.
I guess he doesn't know.
All right, sweet. But at least a couple of years. We probably won't see him with Nashville for a while. But
no.
Picking at 22, I kind of like it from Barry Trotz. You take a lottery ticket, a guy who hasn't really developed too much yet, and you can get him in your system and really turn him into a star if he ends up being as talented as they hope he is.
Yeah, exactly. I think my favorite thing that he said last night was, I like make big hit, is what he said. So he is a physical guy, and he scores really good goals. And my favorite clip that I've seen of him floating around, because I was trying to do more of a deep dive getting home last night, the hockey nerd that I am, right? And he is a creative playmaker in front with tight space in front of goalies too. And my favorite one is he has a drop-off back pass in front of the goalie and finds his teammate to the far right that just dunks this goal. And so he is a big open ice hitter too. So when he gets to Nashville, fans may think he's a Yakov Trenin 2.0. That's the way that I look at it. Now, might be more effective than Yakov, could be around the same thing as Yakov Trenin. I don't know. We're not going to know very much on it. Chris Mason kept saying, I don't know a lot last night. But from what I do see from a lot of these clips, he is a relentless player. And what's been the theme the last year with Andrew Brunette? Relentlessness. So looking forward to seeing how he can kind of take charge in Russia, because he was playing a part of that junior team, not the KHL main team. He played 3 games there. He played for that junior team. So it'd be like playing juniors in Canada here, I guess. So it is interesting. This is a high swing, for sure. A high swing, I would say, especially at center, too. And one thing I found out last night, too, was he is the 4th ever Russian player taken by the Predators in the first round. So that's interesting. I mean, it's been a while since they've, developed someone like from Russia. You know, Alexander Radulov was someone a long time ago that older Predators fans might know more about, that ultimately, things fell apart. You have to hope that things are different. But early on, I really liked this pick. I don't know what else you guys saw or read about after the pick last night, but let me know. Or if you watched those clips, what stands out to you guys?
Nick Frazier, any thoughts? I know you've been on vacation, so maybe not a ton of time to look, but any thoughts just initially on Igor Surin and the Preds pick last night?
Yeah, I mean, to kind of elaborate more on Nick's sentiment there about being a physical player, I was reading some stuff about Surin. Just the one thing that stuck out to me is just that he fits the Andrew Burnett, Barry Trotz new way of playing. Hard, physical. And when you draft a lot of these younger guys, especially for the Preds in the last couple of years, like Evangelista or why am I just blank on names? Like just these smaller type guys, the body built is not as strong, not as physical. When you see a guy like Surin, being a centerman, you're facilitating the puck and just stuff along those lines. It's a reassuring thing to know that when you're a big guy like that, you have the intangibles to be really good, especially being in the first round. I was kind of doing some social media diving and trying to see more about this guy. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, at some point in his career when he played for the international squad for Russia, there was a C on his jersey. So I assume he was a captain.
No, I did not actually know that. That's very intriguing. I didn't know that he was a captain at one point. But if he was, that kind of makes sense.
That's just an assumption. It's just an assumption off pictures I've seen online. They're just on his Russian jersey. It had a C, which obviously
could
was
be
in
from
the placement of captain.
Maybe from his younger days.
So it's a good thing to know. Just kind of a just assumption standpoint. Because if he was a captain at some point for the Russian international team, like that's good for the Preds point. That knows you're getting a true leader, especially a centerman at that point. So when you have a true captain and centerman, that's a bright future for the Preds, especially Jake was saying at the 22nd pick in the first round, it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I did not know that. Maybe he was a captain. I don't know. He maybe had that K on his jersey. I don't know.
I did like last night also when he spoke to the media, he did point out that he's willing to fight too.
Yes, he is.
He said that I'm not afraid to get into a little scrap there.
He
so.
decks, dude. His highlights.
Those hits.
He's one of the hardest hitting forwards I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, he is. And that's what I think the NHL is missing nowadays. Jacob Trouba was someone that Adam Vingan talked about in a completely different context yesterday, but is weighted to you at 197 pounds. I mean, he's only going to get bigger. He's only going to get stronger too. So,
Keezer, you made a good point before we got on air that the Preds went offense yesterday, went with a forward, and a lot of that may have to do with that trade they made earlier in the week with Detroit.
Yep.
Nashville sends a second-round pick for a 19-year-old prospect in Andrew Gibson, which I don't think you see very often, but they have to be really high on this defenseman if you're going to shell out a second-round pick and a prospect for this guy.
I agree. And I think what happened was last year when the Predators drafted Jesse Kissinen, they really liked that pick. He came and was here in Nashville. I thought he was one of the better looking forwards. Everything's early, right? But I thought he was impressionable. But I think what happened was last year at the draft, and Alex Doherty from the Tennessean was talking more about this because he's in Vegas, talked to Trotz about that trade. I think what happened was they were actually already interested in Gibson last year, trying to pick him up. And so Detroit actually moved ahead of Nashville last year and picked him. So the way that Nashville saw it was, we're willing to bite the bullet. Here's one of our 3 seconds. Go ahead and take it. We were going to take him anyway last year around the same spot. So, quite frankly, it's pretty much a draft selection by Nashville.
Yeah, it's like taking a second-round pick just a year later.
Exactly. That's the way that I see it. And I don't know if there will be movement later. Typically the second, things start rolling. So, teams could be calling about players. I don't know how many draft picks are going to get traded. There's no general manager retiring, so David Poyle's not going to have a last pick, or someone's not going to have a last pick this year. But this is the last draft where everybody's gathering together before it's more like the NFL. So I think this could move pretty quickly. I wonder what would be said at the end of the draft too. But I hope the Preds look at this second round because there is a lot of depth left over. So I'm curious to see if they take another forward or if they go D here. I know that there were, let's see, last night the NHL ended up letting us know that there were approximately this many players taken at these positions. There were a lot of centers. There were 11 centers taken in the first round last night, 10 defensemen, 8 right wings, and 3 left wingers last night. No goalies were taken, which Chris Mason was bummed out about. So pretty deep center draft last night in the first round.
Preds have 2 picks in the second round, 55 and 59, so pretty close together there. The second of which coming from Winnipeg from the Nino Niederreiter trade last year.
Yep.
And then a couple more picks in the third as well. The Preds traded their third-round pick last year to get a third and a sixth this year. So they'll have 2 picks in the third and then 1 early in the fourth as well. So lots of action for the Predators coming up today. And again, the draft starts early out there in Las Vegas.
About an hour from now, yeah.
Yeah, 10:30 Central Time, 8:30 local time over there. So not a lot of time for them to revel in Las Vegas last night. Had to get ready for rounds 2 through 7. Again,
hit the roulette tables early, baby.
Yes, exactly. Frazier, you were saying earlier, got to throw your draft selection down. 22 for the Preds last night.
Yeah, exactly.
22.
22.
Hey,
22 red,
22,
black 22.
One thing I would have brought up last night with Jeff Kelty, because he was going to join us, Kelty was actually drafted 22nd overall himself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's that. And then picks for the Predators in the second round, it's at 55 and 59. So they are kind of close together. They could be happy with where they stand.
Yep, and we'll see. Probably won't have those picks while we're on the air.
It
moves quickly, but the draft starts at 33, so we'd have to get through a lot of picks from 10:30 to 11 o'clock. Again, Preds go with Igor Surin, a young center out of Russia, at number 22 last night. Preds have plenty of picks today as the draft wraps up from Las Vegas. We'll take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll talk free agency. Lots of rumors this week coming from Elliot Friedman and Pierre LeBrun about what the Preds could possibly do and some big names out there. We'll chat next about Preds free agency here on 4's Company, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
who do you think they actually try to keep? A lot of those guys have the cultural value. Obviously, Duclair was a deadline trade, and then Austin Watson and Tyler Mott, they've just been those gritty guys in the lineup. So do you think there's anyone that they're trying to keep there for culture purposes? Because McDonough's one of them from Nashville, but do you think is there anyone else that will stay there, you think?
Well, yeah, we'll take Stamkos off that list because of the fact that I'd find he's going to be back.
That was Eric Erlenson, longtime Tampa Bay Lightning reporter on our program about a month ago, talking about Lightning free agents. Nick Kieser asked, who could come back, and he said, well, we'll take Stamkos off that list because he will be back. Maybe not so much. The reports out of Tampa Bay are that the Lightning offered him about $3 million a year, and now Steven Stamkos going to hit the open market. Seems like the Nashville Predators could be a fit. Certainly a splash move for Barry Trotz if he wants to make it. 4's Company here on this Saturday morning, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Kieser, Nick Frazier, Connor Newt. You can get involved as well if you want to text or call 615-737-1025. Nick Kieser, Steven Stamkos. Hard to imagine a bigger name that the Preds could bring in free agency if they're able to strike a deal with the two-time Rocket Richard winner and two-time Stanley Cup champion.
I know. It would be wild if he does come to Nashville. But I want to carry off a point that Chris Mason and I were talking about off the air last night. The Predators last offseason went and got Ryan O'Reilly. If you go and get a Steven Stamkos, doesn't that already kind of tell you, we got a guy we needed last year, let's just build off of it? But the way I look at it is, let's say they didn't get Ryan O'Reilly last year, and then Steven Stamkos is here now, but you've got Luke Shin partly as a recruiter. I mean, look, McDonough's gone. I mean, that's not going to help anymore. But I find that interesting that McDonough even said on his Zoom call that Stamkos called him first to let him know what the plan was long term, and it looks like it's all falling apart.
Well, I thought it was funny. Jared brought up a point, and if he did this, it's genius from Barry Trotz.
And GMs do this.
Jared thinks that Barry traded Ryan McDonough to the Lightning to mess up their salary cap even further that they had to let players go like Steven Stamkos. If that is true, and we'll never know. No. Like, Barry Trotz isn't going to come out and say it, but if he did that, that is high-level stuff from Barry Trotz.
I think the way we could confirm it is we approach Barry Trotz as media and ask, Barry, how did you feel about Steven Stamkos hitting the market after seeing assets going to Tampa?
You could kind of beat around the bush a little bit.
OBB?
I mean,
Open Book Barry.
David Poyle got, 6 draft picks, basically 5 or 6 draft picks for Tanner Jeannot.
Yeah.
And now he's not the same player whatsoever. So it's kind of been, they've been the bully in the sandbox with the Tampa Bay Lightning recently. So, but going back to what I was going to make more of a point on is for the Predators to go get Stamkos, this is a win now move. Clearly last year, looking at Nyquist, Stamkos, Shin, and even Ryan O'Reilly, you thought these are guys that you could build around. Stamkos wasn't here, but now he possibly could be part of the puzzle. Your team's getting older. So there is that sense of the argument where it's, why would you do this in the first place? There's absolutely no way that you want to do this if you want to get younger. On its face, do we all love the idea of Steven freaking Stamkos? Yes, sign me up.
I mean, in the last 20 years, outside of Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby, Steven Stamkos is probably the next guy over the last 2 decades in the NHL.
And I think he's one of the more gifted goal scorers. At times looks better than Alexander Ovechkin. I mean, to be completely frank, Stamkos was the more well-rounded player, for me at least.
I agree with that.
I always thought he was.
I feel like we're more in love with the idea of having him.
Well, I'm talking about what we've already seen from him in years past.
I get that. I get the years past thing, but he's 34.
No,
yes.
I agree with that, and I think you're right in saying that. It's my my point about like Bronny James and Shedeur Sanders, like if Shedeur Sanders was named John Smith, he's not being talked about as a Heisman candidate. I think if you said Steven Stamkos versus X 34-year-old with these stats, like it would be different. But Steven Stamkos, this isn't a Julio Jones move. I think it would be more of a DeAndre Hopkins kind of thing.
Yes, it would be.
It's just not the same Stamkos, and I don't think that's what you're looking for. I think you're just. But to me, the Preds need, the top goal scoring forward.
Yes,
they do. Yes,
and Stamkos doesn't
fit
that to me.
Yeah, Frazier, what do you think?
I think Stamkos has 2 solid years left just to play in the NHL, and under a Barry Trotz and Andrew Burnett type system, I think he could flourish. And like, I know this is a bunch of and if buts or maybes, but I really do think that Stamkos does have a little bit more left in the tank. And why not come to the Preds? And that little comment you made about Jared possibly saying Barry doing these tricks with Tampa Bay, if that is somewhat true, oh my goodness, the Trotz trickery is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so to that point, bring in a Steven Stamkos. And like the draft pick they got last night, Igor Surin, like, you mentioned possibly the next 2 to 3 years he probably will come to America and probably won't play for the Preds at that point, but probably go to Milwaukee, right, Nick?
Yeah, I would say so. But I think
so. With that being said, like, why not bring in a guy like Stamkos, and then you have a guy like Stern who's already in North America, can watch, from afar of a true veteran like Stamkos in a final year. If it were a 2-year type deal, I think it'd be a great move in my opinion. I mean, it just keeps building and building and building on the youth, while you also have veterans kind of leading the way. That's just how I look at it. It's almost like a rebuild, not a rebuild. It's more like
it's a win now move.
Yeah, you accelerate the rebuild if you do that. And like I've talked about it on this show a few times that I feel like the Preds were at a crossroads this offseason. Do you go for it and look for a win now move, or do you kind of try and start the youth movement? And clearly, if you're going after Steven Stamkos, you're going win now.
Yes.
Lots of other guys have been.
Can you not do both?
I guess. I mean, you can. Like
that's kind of how I'm perceiving it. Is like just do both. I know it sounds easy to say, but you got a lot of like I've just been harping this all show long, in weeks past. Keep developing the youth in Milwaukee, along with bringing some veteran guys that will help you win now. And you know what? It's like, speak of Vegas, it's like you throw the dice for roulette, you end up hitting not 7 because that means you crap out, or excuse me, I'm thinking of craps. If you just hit the dice and say you go 30-1 odds, that you're hitting double sixes for 12, then you hit the lottery. Then you go and win the Stanley Cup potentially. That's how I perceive it.
And I agree with you. I think that by signing UC Saros to an extension and committing to UC, who is the ready right now, already top of the league type of goalie, and if you go get Steven Stamkos, that is Barry Trotz saying, I think we have a Stanley Cup window here.
Yeah, I think so.
Instead of if he had traded UC Saros and, maybe you trade a few more of those veterans away, then you're saying, okay, let's take a couple years, maybe miss the playoffs, and then we can rebuild with this youth movement that we've got. I think they're going for it.
I mean, guys, they've got 4 guys, or 5. They have 5 guys on their roster that have 3 or more years left on their contract. So think about it that way.
Yeah.
What's the window here realistically? Is it 3 or 4 years, or is it 5? Because if you've got UC Saros locked in, and obviously I'm not counting Saros, in this, one small exercise. But the way I look at it is because Saros is here long term. He's your guy.
Yeah.
But skater-wise, they're the ones putting the goals in. But if you have that many guys left, you have a very limited amount of time with veterans, because that's what you want to hit on here is the veterans, to take advantage going to the playoffs and winning. But also the added bonus is, let's say LaRue is ready. Okay, cool. He fills in the 3rd, 4th line guy. And what if Reed Schaefer's ready? Okay, cool. He's on that wing as well. Fedor Svechkov, if he's ready, 3rd line centerman in my spot. If they're ready to bring guys up to make a push, it's going to be a few of the younger guys. One thing I'm super encouraged by, because when you look at the Preds defense, only Roman Josi and Luke Schenn and Jeremy Lauzon have 2 years left or more on a contract. Everybody else looks like they're probably not coming back. I would say Dante Fabro's gone after this year more than likely. Too early to tell. But the depth is going to help this team out long-term wise because you got Ryan Efko, Tanner Mollendijk. You also just traded for Andrew Gibson, who could possibly be part of things. Jeremy Hansel is another one. You've already got 4 guys that, in my opinion, in the next three or 4 years could be your everyday guys that are going to be crucial cornerstones on defense without even looking at offense. And they drafted Surin. And Surin could be part of this other ushering in of an era of what the Predators will want to be moving forward. That's the way I look at it.
I think your window is the rest of Philip Forsberg and Roman Yossi's prime.
Absolutely.
However long you think that may be, whether you think that's 4 or 5 years, whether you think it's longer, I think as long as you have Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi playing at the level that they have been for the last few years, I think if you put the right pieces around them, you have a chance to make a run. Because it's hockey. You get into the dance, you've got a chance, and you've got those players, you got a good goalie. I think the Preds have, I would guess 5 years is probably
I'd say roughly, yeah,
the window. But if you sign Steven Stamkos, I think that widens the window for the next 2 or 3 years.
Possibly. I mean, if he's around the same age as Roman Josi is right now, and then you give him a new deal, you've got to weigh the fact of what is Stamkos going to be getting and is it worth it? And in my book, if he's getting anything less than $25 million, I don't know if he's happy about it right now altogether. Stamkos got lowballed with what is rumored to be around $3 million, right? So if he's not taking Tampa's offer, not even thinking much about it, I wonder what Nashville does. Could they even think about moving somebody before they sign him on Monday? I don't know. But if they did, it wouldn't completely shock me either. So, look, guys, there's a lot of possibilities. That's why it's exciting to talk about the Predators franchise right now. So, there's a lot of younger guys that, quite frankly, that if they didn't step up last year, they may not be on this team next year. That's the way I see it.
Just over 48 hours away from free agency starting, there are other free agents other than Steven Stamkos. Chandler Stevenson has been talked about for Nashville. Some defensemen, specifically from Carolina, Brady Shea and Brett Pesce have been talked about. So we'll talk about those guys a little later on. I've put in as one of our weekend picks, you got to predict one signing for the Preds coming up next week. So we'll talk about that. 615-737-1025 if you want to join the conversation. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll take a little Preds break here. Again, we're going to talk a lot of Preds. We'll talk some UC Saros contract later on in the show. Talk about day 2 of the draft as well. But it's 9:45, which means it's time for Newt's Notes. Connor taking over the show when we come back. 4's Company here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
The thing about a Barry Trotz answer, and I think I would know something about this since we talk to him every week. The thing about a Barry Trotz answer. Connor, you're not going to wave goodbye? I mean, what are we doing? It's okay. Guy just leaves.
Busy.
Doesn't even wave goodbye.
You're on the air.
I know, but I still would have appreciated a wave goodbye. Just saying. I mean, what happened? The kids today. I just tell you, it's just,
no respect for their elders.
Common courtesy. I mean, it's sitting here talking about Steven Stamkos is my age like that's a young thing, and it's whatever.
Connor getting chastised by Jared Stillman the other day. Connor leaving after his shift. Didn't even wave goodbye to Jared.
He was on the air.
He did come back. I texted
split.
Connor and let him know that Jared was mad, and so Connor came back and gave a little wave. Jake Lyman, Nick Kieser, Nick Frazier, but you hear the music. It's time for Newt's Notes. Connor, take it away and make sure you wave goodbye this time.
I will wave goodbye.
Smile and wave, Connor.
Just smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. And it's the speaker now, thanks to Big Joe.
That is
I don't
true.
know how I feel about that.
Speaker Newt
I
Gingrich.
like it. I like
The
it.
speaker, baby.
It's intimidating, and it strikes fear into the hearts of my enemies. But I want to talk about this. Okay, so we are just under 20 days, I think, right, Jake? Correct me if I'm wrong.
From the official release, yes, 20 days. The early release is, I think, 17 days away.
Okay.
17.
The official release. We'll go off for official because I was unfortunately not able to get the deluxe edition. But we are under 20 days from the official release of EA Sports College Football 25. Get excited, boys. Okay, but I do want to talk about this. This week, EA did kind of a ratings release thing. They released the top environments to play in, top offenses and defenses, and then overall team rankings. Tennessee was nowhere to be found. On offense, defense, overall, Neyland was number 13, which I don't agree with either. But Tennessee was nowhere to be found. And to the Vols' point, I understand your frustration.
Yeah.
I understand a lot of frustration here. Colorado is not a top 10 team in college football, and their ratings in this game say otherwise. But I'm here to tell you it does not matter, and I'll tell you why. To me, those ratings only matter in Play Now, which is, the standard hop in, play a quick game against your buddies.
And they're going to change, too.
And they are going to change, but I'll get into that. Play Now is the only time it will matter, and unless I'm playing against my buddies, I will use that maybe once, and that will be when I first open the game. I want to see what a team or two looks like. And then we hop right into Dynasty, which brings me to my next point. Dynasty. Those ratings start out in Dynasty, obviously, but guess what? They change based on your performance. If I'm taking, let's use Kennesaw State, for example, who's probably going to be the worst team in this game. If I'm outperforming, those players are going to get better. Let's say I'm using Tennessee. If Nico Iamaleava is having a Heisman winning season, he's throwing 5,000 yards for 52 touchdowns and 2 picks. And guess what? That offense is going to get higher. And that attendance in Neyland, assuming I'm winning every game, assuming I go 12-0, that's going to get higher. And it's going to be a harder environment to play in Dynasty. And guess what? Those players, James Pierce on that team, on the defense, arguably the number 1 pick in the next year's NFL draft, he'll leave. And guess what? Those player ratings will change because I'll be recruiting more guys.
Yeah.
It'll be a higher defense. It could be a lower defense, but it could be a higher one too based on what I recruit or what I bring in the transfer portal. So that's why it doesn't matter. Because if you're like me and if you're like Jake, and I'm sure you other two will probably play Dynasty as well.
Oh, we're doing a show Dynasty.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
There we go. Then it doesn't matter. The Dynasty is all we care about, unless you play Road to Glory, which I'm not too sold on that one. But Dynasty is what this game is taking. I actually think they're doing a full deep dive on Tuesday about the Dynasty mode.
Yeah, like 18,000 words, apparently.
It's supposed to be about 6.5 minutes, which will be amazing, and it will fuel my depression and make me want this game even more than I already do. It's all I think about every day.
My gosh.
But, I mean, I know where I stand. I'm sure you guys agree with me to the standpoint where this doesn't matter much. But I understand the frustration of, my team is better. It should be higher.
Yeah.
But I don't have to say this. I'm Kentucky. Personally, I like that my team's nowhere to be found because that makes my rebuild and my experience with the dynasty more rewarding to me.
This is a free ad, from Connor Newt this morning.
I know. We are the college football video game show. For those of you who maybe haven't tuned in the past, we're all in our 20s. We still like to play video games.
This is our
a little bit,
and when this game comes out, I'm sure that there will be segments about this and our progress
if we
in
show
these
up.
games. If we show up. No, I'm with you, Connor. As much as we kind of bash on the Vols on this show sometimes,
they deserve the praise today.
They do deserve the praise because I'm a Virginia Tech fan. I've mentioned it before. And the Hokies had a great week in these ratings.
I saw that.
Lane Stadium was ranked, I think, the 17th best atmosphere. Hokies were top 20 in defense, top 25 in offense, and top 20 overall. But Tennessee is a better team than Virginia Tech. I'm not under any illusions that yes, do I think Tech is going to be good this year? For sure. But Tennessee is coming off a bowl win and they've got a lot of promise. You mentioned James Pierce, who is possible top 5 pick in the NFL draft. If you're going to give Colorado such a bump because they have Travis Hunter on their team, that's the only reason I can imagine that they got those ratings. Colorado's defense gave up 35 points per game last year, and they were ranked as the 15th best defense in the country. I can only imagine.
Who did they add?
I can only imagine it's only because Travis Hunter is a 99 overall.
Yeah.
That's my only thought is he is pulling it up.
Same thing for the offense because he'll play both sides, I'm sure.
Yep.
But James Pierce should be a 95 overall or something like that. Shouldn't that be pulling the Vols defense up? I just don't get the algorithm and the equation that goes into this. If Colorado is ranked that high and USC's awful defense was ranked 16th in the country, how does that work? I'd love an explanation.
One of my good buddies he was really mad. I was like, why are you so mad? He's like, because I'm a play now merchant. That's all I do. I was like, okay, first off, you're really boring.
There's more to the game.
There's more to the game than just play now. And second, you're missing out, man. The Dynasty, Road to Glory may be great. I'm not huge on the Ultimate Team stuff.
Well, most other franchises have done that. FIFA does that.
It's
NHL
a money.
does that.
Madden does it.
And look, we've got a text on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 448586 says, I love this. This needs to be a name that we roll with when we talk about the Vols in general. Nico Llama Lover has a legitimate chance of being a dark horse. I mean,
Nico.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
We're not talking about a Heisman race here. We're talking about a video game.
The Tennessee's entire season, I think, revolves around whether Nico is the guy.
It truly does.
He looked good in the bowl game, but that was also neutral site, kind of a way to ease him in. How is he going to handle SEC road environments?
Yeah.
But that doesn't take away the fact that Tennessee's still a really good football team.
I bet his rating's in the 70s, though.
I would guess so, too.
Because it sounds like they've done hard ratings.
As a guy who's
very realistic.
You can't
played one game.
I don't think, from what I read. You can't adjust their ratings, but
most
I
games.
think you can. Well, you can't in this one because of the NIL and stuff. They want to make it true to their image and likeness. But I'm willing to bet in Dynasty it'll gradually increase, similar to every
what you
other
do in
game.
Madden. Yeah, same thing. That's interesting.
Connor, you're 100% right. It doesn't really matter. It's cool for the fan bases who are on there that can say, "Woo, our team has the 5th best offense in the country," according to EA Sports or whatever. But it really doesn't matter because within a week I'll be 3 years into my dynasty and all those players are going to be gone.
Exactly.
I'm taking Kentucky to a national championship. Brock Vandergriff is the Heisman winner. Are we really harping on realism here?
You mean realism is giving you a Tennessee Volunteers donut again and seeing you play the game?
You're welcome,
a whole
Robbie
box of
Stanley.
donuts.
I need to know, show-wise, are we all playing on Heisman? I feel like you have to.
I think
you
so.
got to play on Heisman.
You have to.
With us, yes.
You might have to struggle.
With my personal dynasty, we're rolling on pro.
No.
I want to have fun.
I want a challenge.
No.
I want a challenge. That's why you roll into Georgia.
I want to play on Heisman, and even if I go 4-8 my first year, it's only going to make me better.
Yeah, but like all Madden is
It's tough.
game-breakingly cheap. So,
but
Heisman will be the same way.
You've got 30 years. You got to work your way up. It's going to feel so much better when you win national championships if you're playing on Heisman.
That's what. Well, maybe, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll have fun with it. Nick Frazier, what are your thoughts here? We haven't heard from you today.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm with you on this, Connor. I can't wait for this game to come out. I'm with Jake on this. You got to play on Heisman because say if you win like 4 or 5 national titles on just like varsity or whatever, you're just like, well, I probably could have won on Heisman, but then you won't know. You've had all this progress on varsity. You need to up it up to Heisman. Well, just start at Heisman and really just earn it. You got to earn it, man. Like hard work, it's difficult. Earn it.
I will play on Heisman.
Rankings of like,
Sorry, go
ahead, Connor.
Okay, I will play on Heisman.
Say, like, for
Zoom is hard.
Sorry.
Zoom is
I'll
hard.
Just continue.
Just go.
I'm going to continue. Yeah, for the sake of offenses and defenses like ratings, I think Nico will be in like 82 at 81 just because he'll be the starter. And like when you're a Power 5 team in a video game, more than likely you're going to get an 80 or above. And also the fact is, realistically, talking about Nico just for a brief second, I feel like for him, it's a matter of, winning on the road in the SEC. You also have Oklahoma and Texas. That's going to be a new curveball for him. I'm intrigued to see that. But as for college football video game, I'm pumped that Davis Wade Stadium, Mississippi State, got 25th on the hardest places to play. So I'm fine with the Cowboys being there at 25. As for offense and defense for the Bulldogs, it's going to be difficult, but we'll see. It's just in due time. The SMU Mustangs, pony up. That's going to be the dynasty.
I know this is probably not anyone's focus, but will Vanderbilt's stadium be finished?
It is. Yeah. They sent in the renderings.
Okay.
So that'll be your first look at the completed First Bank Stadium.
Yeah.
Coming up in a couple of weeks.
What I was trying to say before Frazier and I had like a
glitch mod.
I will play Heisman if we can turn off that throwing meter because I'm not a fan of that.
There's a throwing meter?
Yeah, they changed the throwing mechanics.
Sure.
Madden has one too, but you can like turn it off, and it looks really similar in college football. But I'm praying they cater to the people that played the old ones and that didn't have that. So I would much rather have the classic press B to throw to your outlet or whatever.
Yeah. And like hold it down for a bullet throw and tap it for lob or
maybe
whatever.
Maybe they have like a classic mode. Maybe it kind of looks like the older games that we know well because there's some franchises that bring those styles back.
NHL does that.
They do.
MLB does that.
No mascot mode, though.
That's okay.
That's all right. Yeah. That goes along with play now for me.
Well, this will be my last show, guys, before the game released. I'm not going to be on the next 2 weeks. So, by the next time that I am on with you guys, I will have already won a national championship with my Wyoming Cowboys.
I'll still be waiting for the game.
Over under on will Jake win a national championship?
But yes, by the next I probably not actually.
I say he has 10 wins in a
I'm setting your line at 7.5 over and under.
For wins in my first season.
Okay. Are you OCing it?
I'm going to be the OC at Wyoming. So we'll see. I will do my best to have a season finished before.
What kind of offense we running?
The wing T.
Ooh.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna mix it up. There's gonna be some option concepts, but we'll be a modern offense too.
I'm going full air raid, baby.
So excited for that. Again, I'm gonna be off the next 2 weeks, so I won't be with you for another 3 weeks. I will try and have a season finished, and I'll give you guys a recap of how the Wyoming Cowboys did in my first year. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Thank you, Connor, for Newt's Notes. If you want to chime in on the college football video game, be our guest. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com or Preds Talk or our question of the day. Who is your player that you want in the Hall of Fame? Any sport doesn't have to be completely deserving, but just a guy that you love and feel is worthy of it. So, again, text or call 615-737-1025. We're going to head to our second hour here. We're going to talk a little NBA draft when we come back. A lot of headlines coming out of the NBA draft earlier this week. We'll get back into some Preds talk in the second hour, and we'll make our picks here on 4's Company, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Force Company, hour number 2 here on this Saturday morning. Jake Lyman, Nick Kieser in studio. Nick Frazier joining us via Zoom, and Connor Newt, our great producer behind the glass. Glad to have you with us. Again, hour number 2. Talk some more Preds. UC Saros getting an extension. Talk some NSC for a little bit. I know Nick Frazier has some updates. We'll get to that coming up. We'll make our picks. But let's get back into our question of the day here. Question of the day: who is a player that you want to be in the Hall of Fame? Again, it doesn't have to be somebody who is completely deserving, like a lock. That's not as fun. Somebody that you just, a player that you watched who you think deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. We'll get to our answers in a second. We do have a caller on our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com who wants to chime in. Go ahead.
Hey, you didn't even say my name, man. You're the first person to ever not say my name.
Well, we didn't have a name written down.
Okay. Well, if you don't know it, I'm not going to tell you who it is. Nick knows who this is.
Go ahead, Adam. Let's go.
Okay, I'm sorry, Adam.
I got your text.
We know that voice.
Hilarious. I got 2 of them. So, number 1, Steve McNair. If you just took his name away from his stats, you would never put him in the Hall of Fame. But, like, personally, I love him. And the way he went out, like all that, it's just such a horrible way for his legacy to end. So what he did for Nashville, I would want him in. And then on a more like a boring answer, I guess, would be Pete Rose, just because I feel like there's been so much worse done for these dudes. And like Pete was obviously the precedent, right? For like, you can't do this. Everybody was betting. Everybody was cheating. Everybody, whatever. But Pete got punished. But like, look at Shohei Ohtani. Watch him playing baseball right now, dude. Like, you obviously caught this guy doing something bad. They're playing it off because he's like such a stud and so important to baseball. Pete was Shohei Ohtani. He was the same damn guy, dude. Like, why can't this guy be in? So that one disappoints me. And I get hot talking about Pete Rose. every single time because he should be in there.
Well, thanks for the call, Adam. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Adam.
Yeah, don't get hot about it, man.
I know Willie and Jill Jelnick last week had a good conversation about Pete Rose. I agree. You know, obviously it's a fine line. Like, he did bet on baseball, but there's a lot of worse things that have been done, and he's the all-time hits leader. I think he deserves to be in as well.
Yeah.
Let's get to our answers here.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it. I know I already shared mine earlier.
I just had one of my friends texted me, and it was actually a name I was already thinking of. Wasn't the guy I was going to say, but Nicholas Backstrom from the Washington Capitals. I was actually thinking about that too because he has kind of been the Robin to Ovi's Batman for years. So Nicholas Backstrom's a good one. The one I was going to say, and I know that he doesn't really deserve it. The longevity is not really there. But give him CJ2K.
I was kind of thinking that too when Adam was talking.
The way that CJ2K played, like watching Chris Johnson, going back to his highlights,
unreal.
Gus Johnson with he's got getting away from the cop speed. Like, that dude was electric to watch.
Fun to play with in Madden too.
Yeah, like he changed the game for 2 or 3 years there. So I know that the stats overall aren't going to support it. The teams he was on didn't really win much. The Titans, I believe, only went to the playoffs his rookie year. That was the year they were the 1 seed and lost to Baltimore. Dirty hit took him out of that game, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
But Chris Johnson never went back to the playoffs with the Titans. Didn't have a ton of success in New York or Arizona after that. But still, what he did for that 2 or 3 year stretch, give me CJ2K.
That's a good one. Connor, do you got one?
I do. Mine's kind of similar along the lines of Jake. The longevity is there, but early in his career, he had the accolades for sure. Then he got hurt, and he's still in the league, but he's not the same. Derrick Rose, my favorite player.
I like that.
My favorite player when I was a kid. My dad is a huge Bulls fan, so Derrick Rose was on all the time, and that 2010-2011 season, he became the youngest MVP in history. I think he still is, actually.
I think you're right.
I would have to look. But he changed the game. He was then what Ja Morant is to me now.
I think so.
In a skill sets. Then of course he got hurt in the playoffs, tore his ACL.
Never been the same.
All because Tom Thibodeau didn't want to bench him.
Yep.
When they were up 30 over, I think it was the Knicks. Maybe.
So
Derrick Rose is youngest NBA MVP in history.
Yeah.
22 years and 191 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was electric, dude.
Unbelievable.
Every time I think of him, I think of that one shot against the Cavaliers. I think that was in 2011, but he steps back, banks in the 3, they win. He was just so much fun to watch. And that was back when the NBA to me was fun.
Yeah.
That was a fun era. The early 2010s, late 2000s.
Sure.
That was a good time in the NBA. Nick Frazier, any Hall of Famers that you want to see?
Just not only as a Cardinals fan, but just as a fan in general. Just you get to see something like that. A lot of people don't get to see 700 home runs in one career. Just being a part of that exclusive club is impressive. Another baseball one I'd like to see is Manny Ramirez, but that won't happen either. Just due to the fact of the PEDs that were, he tested positive for, but I did a lot for Boston, the Cleveland Indians as well. But hit 555 home runs, it's pretty impressive. I think anything over 500 has to be looked at. But again, the asterisk next to his name because of the PEDs is understandable. But would love to see a Manny Ramirez in there.
Yeah, the Pete Rose, Adam already called in and talked about him and all the PED guys, the steroid guys. It's going to be tough for them to get in. Talk about Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa and Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, like that. Some of the greatest baseball players of all time, but I don't know if you can. If you let one in, you have to let all of them in.
You do.
And I feel like they're just not going to let any of them in.
No.
So
the thing about Barry Bonds, though, is that his stats.
Nick Frazier is on the road, so he's going in and out at times. But Barry Bonds, that one, if you're going to let any of them in, I think Bonds would be the one that I would at least be most lenient toward.
I was going to say.
Not because of what he did was any less of cheating, I guess, but he was really good before he took the PEDs too.
Yeah.
And, he said steroids don't help you hit a baseball. They help you hit it further. Like, he was one of the best hitters of all time, if not the best hitter of all time. I mean, all-time home run leader. So, yes, did the steroids help? For sure. But bat-to-ball skills, steroids aren't helping you. It's not slowing the ball down coming towards you.
No.
It's just helping you hit it further.
It is. And that's the way that you can look at it to maybe make it easier to go, all right, this guy deserves to be in there. And it's a career achievement award, too. I mean, that's the way you have to look at it at some point in time, where you have to honor the greats. And there's a lot of unofficial Hall of Famers, and we've listed several here this morning. And you have to take those with a grain of salt, too. But I don't know if Frazier wants to finish this point. If he's back and ready, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I'm here. It's just, you take away Barry Bonds' ease, it's still Hall of Fame worthy. That's the thing. And so, like, I heard you guys a little bit in and out there, but, like, if you allow Barry Bonds into the Hall of Fame, that's when it gets to the point of, well, you let one in, you got to start letting others in. And it's like a trickle-down effect. And that's just unfortunate. But, some guys that did take PEDs don't need to be in the Hall of Fame. Some guys that did take them, I mean, I'm not saying PEDs should be allowed in the Hall of Fame whatsoever, but it's just Barry Bonds' stats are ridiculous without PEDs. So that's my little caveat of it. You guys also mentioned about Barry Bonds. Like, yeah, he did mention PEDs. It doesn't make you hit him. It just makes you hit him further. Hits the ball farther.
The Cracker Jack box.
Yeah, with that being said, like, I just want to point out there's like a cool instructional video that Barry Bonds, people that are baseball nuts, he has a cool instructional video about his sweet spot on the baseball and also the sweet spot on the bat. And it was like a very specific spot. And like, he trained himself week in and week out to hit in that one spot wherever it was in the strike zone. It's impressive. It's definitely a YouTube watch for sure.
I think I've seen that where he talks about trying to catch the baseball with the bat. Like, he's not trying to hit it; he's just trying to catch it. And
yeah,
there's a reason why he hit so many home runs, all-time record. So, again, but I get it. You let Barry Bonds in, then you have to let Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa in too. So. We'll see. Baseball, I believe, is the hardest Hall of Fame to get into.
Probably.
So
many players.
I don't know if they're ever going to do it, but, never say never.
Yeah.
Maybe the opinion changes on those guys as the years go on here. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to get involved. And let us know who you want to see in the Hall of Fame. 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to get a quick update on NSC from Frazier as they continue their coaching search. And then we'll talk about UC Saros' new contract as he will sign an 8-year extension coming up in the coming days, already agreed upon, and see what that means for the Preds and Yaroslav Askarov. That's up next. 4's Company here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan today as the Nashville Sounds take on the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. Pre-game at 5:20, first pitch at 5:35, with coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, 5 Points Roofing, Cottle Vet Clinic, and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Join us this July 4th at the 18th Annual Music City Hot Chicken Festival at East Park. It's a spectacular day packed with live music, contests, and, of course, hot chicken. It's free, so bring the whole family. Discover more at hotchickenfestival.com. 4's Company, Jake Lyman, Nick Keyser, Nick Frazier, Connor Newt with you. And you can get involved as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We're going to talk a little bit of Preds later in the segment, but first, I know there's been some updates on Nashville SC as they do their coaching search, and we've got our Nashville SC guy, Nick Frazier, joining us via Zoom.
Dr. Crane,
Dr. Crane,
us.
Yeah, what you got for us?
Yeah, I just recently, the U.S. men's national team, I've been chirping at this bird the last couple of weeks and weekends, I guess you could say. Depending on what the U.S. men's national team does, my hunch has been Brian Callahan, and obviously Tom Bogert with The Athletic put out that article being, Callahan was the front runner, is still the front runner for NSC's next coaching hire. Just my perspective, again, not reporting anything right now, but I still think it's going to be Brian Callahan. Now that U.S. men's national team lost to Panama over this past weekend, it's just not looking likely for the U.S. men's national team to go through the group stage. I believe they have to beat Uruguay in the final game of the group stage matches.
Yep.
And to at least get into the knockout stages, I believe. So with that being said, it doesn't look likely that will happen. That's just my perspective perceiving the game. Yep. And so, which means it's an early exit for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah.
And which, gives more open opportunities for Nashville to explore some head coaching opportunities for people that are out there that are candidates, and one of them being Brian Callahan. And I just think that would be the right fit.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I feel. Nashville SC fans, keep your eyes and ears open and just be looking at your phone, because I feel like something, might not happen today or tomorrow or whatever, but definitely, yeah, it's imminent in my opinion.
Yeah.
So just make sure you just keep an eye out on that.
I think a quick note to cap off the NSC thing is we were told, as fans via email from Ian or from the CEO. How do you say his last name, Frazier?
Ian Air.
Okay, cool. I didn't know how to say his last name at all. But he says, looking ahead, we're on the brink of announcing our new head coach, a candidate we believe will be a perfect fit for our city and our team. So
they've already hired him.
They already know who it is. Yeah.
So that makes sense. And
right.
Maybe we'll get our second Brian Callahan with a G in his last name.
With a Tyler Boyd as well.
Yes. Lots of parallels between the boys in gold and the boys in two-tone blue. Thank you for the update, Frazier. Excited to see. Maybe for the next show, there will actually be a new head coach for Nashville SC as they prepare for Leagues Cup, which I believe is late July.
Yep.
Is when it gets started.
Yeah,
so.
Hopefully so. I mean, they play tonight. They play, I believe it's
7:30 against Miami.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, Inter Miami. So it's a good game for Nashville to steal some points at home, especially with probably no Lionel Messi being international play and a few other guys. So this would be a good little time for Nashville to kind of get into their feet. I mean, Hani Mukhtar the last 5 games, has 4 goal contributions. Sam Surridge had himself a brace a few games ago, along with 1 assist. So he has 3 goal contributions in the last 2 games. So this is kind of your 2 hot DPs for Nashville SC are kind of hitting form right now. So this is the right time for them to kind of get 3 points and kind of keep going up in the standings. They're currently, I believe, in 7th, which is a playoff spot. So this is good for the boys in gold.
There we go. No Lionel Messi tonight as his Argentina team plays in Copa America today. So he will not be there. Chance for Nashville SC to grab some points at home. Let's get back to Preds here. Going to talk a little bit about UC Saros. We'll probably come back to this in our next segment as well. New contract, 8 years, $7.74 million per year. The Preds committing to UC Saros. And now I guess the question is, what do you do with Yaroslav Askarov? That's kind of where everybody's head goes next. Was not traded last night, which I know there was rumblings that there were teams reaching out. Preds wanted to move into the top 5. It didn't happen.
Yep.
Does it feel like Yaroslav Askarov is going to enter training camp as the backup now?
I think so. I would say belief here is you would ideally want to pick up a guy that would kind of have a support to Askarov and also to UC Saros. Now, Kevin Lankinen, I can tell you definitively, he's not coming back. Double checking that last couple of days, it's not happening. there's not going to be something advantageous for him here in Nashville. It was worth thinking about because with the Saros news, it's will he come back? And so I doubled down on that once again. Not anything earth-shattering whatsoever. Lankinen not coming back to the Nashville Predators. Best wishes to him. Ultimately, who do they get? I mean, your guess is as good as mine for backup. Laurent Brossoit is one name that comes to mind. But I don't know how you guys feel, but dependent on how Askarov approaches, everything happens for a reason when he comes back here. How does he take that?
Yeah.
I mean, is there going to be support from the staff that is overwhelming and supportive of, hey, we understand how you're feeling. Let's work through this. But Barry Trotz, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation with his staff about what that was like to go ahead and agree to a contract with him. And, I saw those two talking when they announced the Ryan McDonough trade, and things pretty seemed gun-ho there. Everything was going well. So for them to be, agreed upon, it's a good feeling for Predators fans to feel, I would say, secure in their future. But a lot of fans are upset. So if you feel different, text us 615-737-1025 or just share your thoughts on how you feel about it. I want to see more of that because I think he's deserving of a new contract for a bargain. We don't know the details yet, guys. I would imagine that there are some modified no movement clauses in some of those later years. There's going to be some no trade clauses. I mean, all the way through at least the first 4 or 5 years, for sure.
I would like to officially join Willie's team.
The Avengers.
The Avengers, as he calls it.
Oh,
I would
boy.
officially like
Come
to
on,
enlist
baby.
because this feels like the right move to me. And I'm sure, not Frazier. Why do I keep doing that? You're Keyser. I'm sure, like Keyser said, that there will be modified, guarantees. So it's not like he fully could be here 8 years. He could.
I highly doubt it.
I highly doubt it. I think there will be some sort of out within, the last 2 or 3 years. So that's why I think this is the right move. He's proven he's an elite goaltender in this league. I have a hard time finding, 5 to 7 more guys that are better than him. So that's why, and on the Askarov front, he's not ready. Can we let that go? He's not ready to be an NHL starting goalie. I'm not even sure he's ready to be a backup goalie. But
I think he's ready to be a backup goalie.
It feels like that's the direction they're trending. It feels like Barry is going to call him up. Lankinen's gone. It feels Barry is going to call up Askarov, and he'll play 25 to 30 games
Probably.
this next season.
Yeah, maybe I would. Ideally, I wonder what the plan is going to be for Saros' workload. I think that's a major topic for me. What does his workload look like for the next few seasons? And if it's the next 2 years look similar to this one, I think that's okay. But long-term wise, this guy cannot continue to play 60 games a year, guys. It's not something you need to be doing. Maybe they hope it's a 1A, 1B. I don't know. But does Askarov approach that with grace? I don't tend to think so right off the bat, but things can change drastically.
We'll continue this conversation coming up next. Again, UC Saros agreeing to an 8-year contract with the Predators worth $7.74. I believe that 7.4 was probably intentional there, matching his jersey number. Average per year with the Predators that kicks in after next season. So Preds have him for 9 years now under contract. Big move from Barry Trotz ahead of free agency. We'll keep talking about it on the other side. 4's Company here on this Saturday morning, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Don't miss out on Nashville's best deal for Deacon's New South in downtown Nashville, where Southern service meets exceptional service. I believe that's supposed to say Southern food. Their dry-aged steaks and chef-inspired dishes are complemented by inventive sides and desserts featuring locally sourced produce. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals to get a $50 gift card for only $25 while supplies last. 4's Company. Wrapping up the show in the next 30 minutes, Jake Lyman, Nick Keyser, Nick Frazier, Connor Newt. Continuing our conversation about UC Saros and the new contract the Preds are prepared to give him, 8 years worth $7.74 million per year. Talking about Yaroslav Askarov, he put out on his Instagram story kind of right after, maybe the next morning after the reports.
Yeah, it was a weird time
of UC Saros' contract.
Like 3 a.m. Central Time
yesterday. He was on the beach somewhere and just put everything happens for a reason. And you have to think, tough week for Yaroslav Askarov. One of his best friends, his best friend down in Milwaukee, Igor Afanasyev, gets traded. And then you kind of get blocked at the goalie position with UC Saros signing that 8-year deal. But if what you're saying is true, Nick Keyser, and it is 4 years of a no-move clause, and then it kind of loosens up towards the end of his contract, maybe that's where things could open up for Yaroslav Askarov to end up supplanting UC Saros despite the 8-year contract.
Yeah, I think so. And plenty of you on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, have voiced your concern with giving out this contract, but then also on the flip side, what does this do for Askarov and that future? And Stephanie messaged in with a great point. She says, as Saros ages, I think his size will impede his performance. I'm also not putting all my eggs in Askarov's basket either. We did that with Tolvanen and did not get a return on that investment. With that said, I say bring up Askarov and make him the backup and see what he has to offer. Now, I tend to agree with the sentiment. Once again, it comes down to, can the Predators get what they need out of him, whether it's at training camp or in the next few months he has in the minors? It's whatever. And quite frankly, I think from watching him this year, he could be a backup for sure. I say could be with a little bit of grace because he did get hurt a lot this year, more than a goalie typically has to deal with, I would say, as a starter. So I think for his sake, and Scott Nickel talked about this with Willie the other day. It's a matter of how does he get through some of these experiences? How does he handle them? And I think for his sake, he battled through. He came back and played when he was as healthy as possible. So how does he translate that into being gritty and being a stalwart in the net? And so I think for Saros' sake, he has nothing to worry about here. Not a lick. I remember even asking him earlier this year and now feel silly because he signed the contract of, how do you feel about scuttlebutt with your name being out there in trade rumors? And he hears about it all the time. Now, I think ideally the reason I'm jumping ahead and saying 4 or 5 years of Saros sharing the net with Askarov could be good. And I also think, let's say you get 4 good years of Saros, and then in that 4th year going into the 5th year, all right, Askarov's better. Let's start playing him. Let's start seeing what he has more of. And that could even happen sooner. And I'm not trying to talk down on UC Saros, one of the best goalies in the National Hockey League, but it's pro sports. You just don't know what's going to happen. And another aspect to this too, fellas, Askarov needs a contract next summer. He's an RFA, so it's kind of like a franchise tag. You can say, hey, let's qualify you for that 5th year, for that 4th year, and keep you around, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Because then, if all parties see the difference, he could walk. So there is that possibility. So don't say Russia yet. That's not where you want to go. But that's just my vision of it. I mean, do you guys tend to agree with that? How do you feel about that? Let me know.
Nick Frazier, what you thinking?
I have a different perspective on this little Saros Askarov thing. Jakola, is that right?
Yes, that would be the pick that Pekka Rinne was very privy on last summer. He's a goalie that scored a goal this year too.
Right. Yeah. So the reason why I bring up his name,
obviously his goals percentage, save percentage, excuse me. Last 2 seasons, what was 904, 908, something like that.
Yeah,
and
something
this
like
past
that.
season it was 875.
He got hurt too.
I know Jared has this. Yeah, I know Jared has this little sentiment of not good, not a good goalie. But obviously this kid's 21, a lot of room for growth. As back to the Saros trade, to the Saros deal. Follow me on this here, gentlemen. With the UC Saros deal, 8-year type thing. Around year 5, I agree with Nick. Year 5 is kind of where you start it's time to start moving on towards other things. I think that's when you start bringing in Askarov. Just kind of alluding to Nick's point here. And then you maybe have this Jockula kid it's kind of maybe ready. Might bring him around in Milwaukee for a little bit, kind of follow suit, and maybe be a backup for Askarov. And if the Preds do find, I know, not sure about the no trade clause thing with Saros or not, but if there is some sort of way you could trade him when you have 3 years left, I wouldn't be surprised if the Preds kind of maybe buy out that last 3 years of the contract or split halfway with somebody that's a top contending Stanley Cup team at the time that needs a goaltender. I would not be surprised to see that. And then you have an Askarov, and then maybe that could be your middleman. That could be your transitional goalie as Askarov. And maybe he is good. Maybe you do keep him. And then after that, bring up Jockula and see what happens. There's a lot of promise, and obviously Pecorino has a lot of praise on that kid as well. But looking at his stats recently, the last 2 seasons, he's been pretty good. So that's kind of where I'm looking at it from here.
It's a good point that it's not exclusively Saros and Askarov. Like, there are other options out there. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on a point Willie made last night on the draft show. He was talking about the Preds moving into the top 5 and said that Yaroslav Askarov straight up for a top 5 pick. He thinks that Yaroslav Askarov is worth more than that. And I'm like, I lean towards the side of the Avengers and Willie's side of the argument of keeping those two and letting Askarov develop behind Saros. But I think if Barry Trotz was offered the 4th overall pick for Yaroslav Askarov straight up, I think he'd be stupid not to take it. Like, there wasn't a single goalie taken in the first round last night. Like, you've already got a goalie locked up for 8 years. If you can get and I'm not saying that would even be an option, but Willie was saying that it would be that he thinks you would need a top 5 pick and more to get Yaroslav Askarov, and I just don't agree with that.
I don't tend to agree with that either. I mean, there's more to be talked about there with that, but he's not a proven commodity either. And even in the minors, there's not much you can really go off of here. You're going off of strictly what you think he could be long term. What do our scouts think about him already? I mean, so many calls yesterday were about he was compared to this goalie that was great and this one, and it's like, guys, that's a great thing to talk about. We don't know yet. Like, that is something you do not know yet. He was 18, 17 years old being compared to goalies that were winning Vezina trophies, winning the William Jennings trophy. I don't know why I was trying to name that trophy, but it doesn't matter. You've got goaltenders that are established that you can think about comparing him to, but is it really even worth that? And for Willie's sake, I understand where he's coming from. He wants, as much value as possible to squeeze, all that juice out of that lemon, when quite frankly, all the seeds are kind of blocking that right now, and there's not really room for the best to come out of that deal. So it's going to take some time. And whether they move Askarov, whether they move Saros years down the line, whenever that may be, I don't know. But time will tell as the second round gets started behind Jake right now, by the way. The Sharks took a left winger to start the second round. So the Preds will be picking later this hour. So we'll find out if they pick during our show or not. But there's just a small update there. But I
do have a trade for you that just occurred.
Yeah, we did. I did see the trade. It was the Buffalo Sabres.
Yep, trading Beck Mallinston to the Capitals for number 43 overall.
Yeah, it was Washington moving off of Beck Mallenstein. So that pick moved around.
Sorry. Yeah, flip that one around.
Yeah. So we did have that. But, yeah, guys, it's interesting. There's been a lot of scuttlebutt here in Nashville with who's interested in keeping him, who doesn't like the deal. So continue to let us know. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Want to hear from you. But this is wild. I mean, and here's the thing, too. Guys, 2 through 7. There could be more movement here. The
Yeah.
Preds could certainly trade around. There are definitely prime opportunities to go talk to some GMs. And you're right there. And they're all calling each other too, by the way, which I find awesome. But
it is hilarious that they are all sitting on the same floor. I know this is the last one that this is happening where it's all concentrated in one spot, and it's going to move to the traditional draft where you have your war rooms in your respective cities and then the central location where all the prospects are. I just think it's hilarious to see those tables and like Barry Trotz picking up the phone to call a guy who's sitting 3 tables away.
I know, it's awesome.
Or something like that.
Did you guys see the picture yesterday of Peter Laviolette sitting there?
Yeah, he looked like a kid that was like
to
on
quote
his
Alex
iPad.
Doherty, he literally looked like a kid that was on an iPad. It was hilarious.
And did not want to be there.
It's a weird setup they've got over there, but cool in the sphere. All the graphics and stuff going on behind it. And again, the second round is underway. Already 3 picks in the book, 4 picks in the book. So
yeah.
maybe you're right. Maybe we will see the Preds pick before we get off the air here. We got about 15 minutes left. Preds pick at 55 and 59. Right now we're on pick 37. So we'll see. We'll take a break, see where we are when we come back. We're going to make our weekend picks. We're going to talk some Preds free agency. Everybody's going to make a little prediction there. We have NASCAR in town. The Ally 400 is tomorrow, so we're going to pick some NASCAR as we are the racing station here at 102.5 The Game, and we'll do our wild card as always. We'll wrap up the show. 4's Company, Saturday mornings, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final segment here on 4's Company, wrapping up this Saturday morning. Jake Lyman, Nick Kieser, Nick Frazier, Connor Newt with you. We're going to make some picks in this final segment. Right now, round 2 of the NHL draft is underway. Currently on pick 39, Preds pick at 55. It's going quickly. We'll see. Maybe we get a tail end of the show Preds pick to update you on. Coming up on the station, we got a lot of NASCAR today. NASCAR qualifying coming up at 1. The Xfinity race at 3:30. Got some baseball later on as well, Rangers and Orioles. But let's make some picks, gentlemen. And we're going to start with Preds free agency. Not picking a game, but a lot of free agents have been talked about in relation to the Predators and where they might end up. Let's all make a prediction of one guy that we think is going to sign with Nashville coming up on Monday or later on next week. Nick Frazier, why don't you lead us off here?
I'm going to go with not Joe Pesci, but I'll take Brett Pesci. I think Pesci is going to be a part of the Preds. This is just a piece of the puzzle the Preds are missing. Plus, it brings that extra leadership that they need in the defense and kind of fills in that Ryan McDonough role that will be missed.
It's a good one. Nick Kieser?
Brady Shea. that would be his teammate too. So I would tend to lean on Brady Shea. He can kill penalties. He can give you pretty good production too. So I like that. That's a favorable pick for Nashville if they go defense and they sign him. So I like him a lot. He's physical when he needs to be. You know, Brett Pesce's a little more physical. He's your stay-at-home D-man. So how difficult could Brady Shea make life? I mean, are they looking for someone grittier than him? I don't know. You know, Brett does bring that, but I think Brady is more advantageous for Nashville to go grab if they want to continue to bolster that blue line. And they are missing McDonough, but what was the stat? I think Vingen read this off, and something I looked up too. I think it's Roman Yossi over the last few seasons, he has the second most goals for by a D-man. Not in general, but the most by a D-man in the last few seasons. I think it's behind Roman. So, yeah, that's my pick.
The Knicks going with defense, both from the Hurricanes. I will go forwards. I'm going to go with Chandler Stevenson. Connor Newt mad that he's going last because we're stealing all of his picks. Chandler Stevenson, I watched him when he was in D.C., played under Barry Trotz with the Capitals, been great with Las Vegas the last couple of years, and good second or third line center that you could put behind Ryan O'Reilly. I like Chandler Stevenson. I think he will be a Predator next week. We got news?
We have some big news in the NHL, not with Predators.
Okay.
But Tampa Bay has dealt Mikhail Sergachev to the Utah hockey team.
Wow. Utah making some moves.
I can't believe this. And then also it's believed that Kevin Hayes from the Blues is being traded right now too. So there is a large reaction going on. Bill Daly is at the podium reading this off right now. So we've got a huge trade right now that just went down. We'll go through our picks and react to whatever news is coming down. We'll give you more details in the next few minutes. But Connor Newt, if you have a pick, go ahead and make yours. I think you were kind of going through it, right?
Yeah, let me take Joe Smith out of Scarbini State. Since you took it. No, I'll take one not a lot of us are talking about. Give me Jake Gensel.
You like that one? I think a deal's getting done. I think he's going to be staying in Carolina.
You guys are
then
all
never mind.
Poaching the Hurricanes.
You know what? I'll take the big one. Steven Stamkos. Come on down.
Good one. I thought somebody was going to go with him. Honestly, I went with Stevenson because I figured someone else was taking Stamkos.
Yeah.
I think Jared said it yesterday, and I agree with him. I think the Preds are going to come in $7 million, $8 million, somewhere in there, and that should be enough to get Steven Stamkos on your team.
But with this trade, with Sergachev being moved, think
true.
about that. They are clearing up a lot of cap space right now. I'll tell you how much it is in just a second. Golly.
But frees up some money for the Lightning to bring back Stamkos, which it would make sense. It's tough to watch your franchise player walk to another team.
Yeah.
Someone had to take him, though.
Well,
I think so.
And Elliott seemed to think that if he were to hit the market, I have the clip somewhere, the Preds would make an aggressive offer.
Yeah.
Vegas would make an aggressive offer.
Well, and Sergachev makes $8.5 million for the next 7 years. By the way, he had a no-trade clause, so they had to waive it.
Wow.
So he is going to Utah. He's officially joining them. That package is still being put together as we speak. So that's wild. Oh, apparently the deal is Sergachev to Utah for Connor Geeky, J.J. Moser, a 2025 second from Toronto, and pick number 199 in the draft.
All righty then. So big news in the NHL. We're making our picks. Picking a Preds free agent. Nick Frazier went with Brett Pesce. Nick Keyser went with Brady Shea. I've got Chandler Stevenson. Connor Newt says Steven Stamkos. We've got NASCAR in town. The Ally 400 tomorrow. Cup Series race over at Nashville Super Speedway. Let's make some picks. Who's winning? Who's taking the checkered tomorrow? Nick Keyser, why don't you start us off?
I really like Denny Hamlin. He's a pretty aggressive guy. But just to go quickly, I do like Hamlin in these picks that I usually make for NASCAR. There's a few other guys I like going to as well. But yeah, Denny Hamlin here in Nashville. I like that one.
Nick Frazier.
Oh, he is rejoining.
We've lost Nick Frazier. We'll get back to him in a second. I will go with the fan favorite. I'll go Chase Elliott.
I'm here.
We got Nick Frazier. Nick Frazier, who you taking in NASCAR tomorrow?
Oh, give me Ooh, you know what? Ross Chastain. I picked him last year. I'm going to do it again. Ross Chastain.
And he won last
Stop
year.
letting me go last.
To let Connor go first on his wild card because we've stolen all his picks. Okay, so Keyser going with Denny Hamlin, Nick Frazier, Ross Chastain. I've got Chase Elliott taking it home over at Nashville Superspeedway. That'll be on our station as well. 1:30 pre-race coverage tomorrow. 2:30, I believe, is the green flag. Connor, have you figured one out that you're going to replace Chastain with?
Yeah. Kyle Larson. I think he's the betting favorite.
Pick. Yeah,
I mean, there's nothing else. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Go down and pick, I don't know, Danica Patrick or whatever?
You can go pick
You
the
should.
suit because the suit's the whole PA voice this weekend.
Yeah.
That's great.
I believe Luke Combs is driving the pace car tomorrow, too.
Is he
Alvin
really?
Kamara put out a tweet earlier that said if you are a NASCAR fan and a Vols football fan, he's got something special for you. So
Cool.
maybe we could see some AK driving the pace car or something with Luke Combs.
Sweet. And, yeah, make sure you tune in. Racing Station 102.5 The Game has your coverage of all the racing here in Nashville this weekend. Let's wrap things up with our wild cards here. Connor Newt, because you have been tortured the last two picks going last, you can go first.
Because I hate all of you, mostly Nick Frazier, I'm taking the Cardinals here. It's sunny gray day, gentlemen. Sunday sunnies. So I'll take the Cardinals. They usually like to rally here in these late game series or the late games of the series. They won last night off just a marvelous grab from Brennan Donovan. They won 1-0, beat the Cincinnati Reds.
Donnie.
I'll take the Cardinals here. I think it'll be a low-scoring one. Give me the Cardinals 3-1.
Nick Frazier?
Yes, I have two of them. Nashville SC to win 2-1 tonight. I think Sam gets it done. Sam Surge gets a goal, and Hani Mukhtar probably some sort of assist or somebody on that field. But I think they win 2-1. They steal some points from Miami. And my other wild card is Italy to win against Switzerland today. Big Italian soccer fan. Italy national team. They won in the dying embers of the game last week against Croatia. They get it done. I have them winning it all. My bias is just telling me. But Italy wins it all. I think they win against Switzerland and the whole thing.
Nick Frazier going to the pitch for both his picks, Nashville SC and Italy. Nick Keyser, are you going to soccer as well?
No soccer. I'm going to go back to Major League Baseball. I'm going to pick Sonny Gray and the Cardinals taking on the Cincinnati Reds this afternoon. The Cardinals.
Already took that.
Yeah, I could take it, though. Why not?
That was the rule.
Is that the rule?
Yes.
Okay.
Mix it up, Keyser.
All right. Give me Max Fried and the Braves against the Pirates. I'll do that one. Paul Skeens is actually on the mound later this afternoon, too.
Good battle there.
Yeah.
I will stick to the diamond as well. We've got Rangers and Orioles on 102.5 The Game later on this evening after the Xfinity race. I'll go with the Rangers on the road. Michael Lorenzen on the mound against a young Cade Povich. I think the Rangers go into Camden Yards and get a win. So we've got 3 baseball picks and then Nick Frazier with his soccer picks. Wrapping up our week here.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. I can't remember how we did last week. I don't think anybody had an amazing week.
No. We got to get a system in place. This is ridiculous.
I know. We have absolutely no
it's the
record.
people against Connor Newt right now.
Newt, you got to have this all written down, man. That's the producer's job.
Exactly.
I know since when, but this is ridiculous. I'm taking a stand today. I will no longer go last every single time. I'm last in the ads. I'm last here. I'm last in question of the day. No more. This is it.
So, Connor,
the speaker has spoken.
I'm sorry. You can blame me because I decide all of that stuff except for the ads, but I decide who goes where just randomly in my head usually.
Yeah.
Usually I'm just like, all right, Keyser went first last time. Frazier, you take it this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it needs to go off of when we have a point system set in place. It goes off of who had the most points the following week. I mean,
that is true.
Okay,
that's a good point.
We'll start this week. Send me your picks because I don't remember already.
Well, good job. And as the producer, I'm so funny thinking in this in my head. You're going to want to go first, and then we'll get some calls. And then you'll be like, oh, I got it.
That is true.
Charles,
Yeah, we
yes.
won't even get to
and
get
then
to you.
Wallman's not going to be here for you.
Right, and we're not going to remember our regular callers' names anymore either.
I guess not,
Sorry,
but there was
Adam.
some context there as well.
It wasn't written down. I didn't know.
Wow.
Sorry, Adam.
So just to recap real quick, too, if you're a hockey fan listening, the draft is underway once again this morning. Mikhail Sergachev has been traded to Utah with no salary cap retained, by the way. I know that Bill Armstrong wanted to rebuild that blue line in Arizona before going to Utah, so they start doing that. They have dealt over Connor Geeky, a high-profile prospect, by the way, J.J. Moser, Toronto's second-round pick in the 2025 draft, and pick 199 this afternoon. So a huge trade that has shaken up the hockey world. Apparently, there was a huge rouse, and we're not going to get that next year with media members in attendance amongst each other. And then also one update as well. Don't see a return yet. Actually, yes. The Penguins have made 2 picks, but they also traded for Kevin Hayes in the last 5 minutes. There's more info to be broken down there as well. Kevin Hayes was with the Blues. He's being dealt over to the Steel City. So there you go. First few trades of the day. Tanner Howe was taken by the Pens at 46. Max Plant was just taken by the Red Wings, a left winger. So we'll see what Nashville does. They're coming up here pretty quickly. So we're not going to get to share that pick with you, but be sure to follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game, and we'll have you covered with all the draft stuff this afternoon.
Yep, 55 and 59, 8 picks away. So get to that coming up next. Guys, I will not be with you the next 2 weeks. Hope you have some great shows.
I'll hold it down for you, Jake.
Appreciate it. Nick Frazier, thanks for joining us remotely once again. Hope you had a great vacation.
Thank you, guys. I'll be back this week.
I'll see you at the pitch.
All the help there. Yes, indeed. Hey, take care, Nashville. We'll see you.
That does it for us. 4's Company here on this Saturday morning. We'll talk to you next week on 1025 and 1063 The Game.